I offer my most humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of my dearest, dearest Lord. You are in us, around us, above us. Please, Swami, please have Leslie step out of the way. May your love be with us, speak with us. So. Sairam, everyone. How is everyone enjoying this beautiful retreat? I feel so elevated, especially just before this, I was with the SSE, the small children, and they are just absolutely pure. They already know everything. They have the best questions, and they can answer it themselves. It's us who are, we're the rusty ones, right? So, Sairam, last time when I spoke, I sort of left you on a cliffhanger. What people come to me, what happened to your mother? What happened to you? Did you stay for 6 months because you came with the ticket for 6 months? And no, that's not what happened. As Swami says, man proposes, God disposes. So Swami had a plan. And what happens to us when we're on the spiritual road, when we surrender, when we give ourselves to the Lord? That's just the beginning of the journey, actually. That's when it really starts. Because now you are truly ready and open to learn. You're truly ready to become humbled. You're truly ready to truly learn the lessons. And the master, as they say, the true master comes in our lives when we truly need him and when we're truly ready to receive his teachings. So where we left off last was the interview. So Swami told my mother and myself to run the Western canteen. And sure enough, the next day we opened the canteen with toast and porridge and things of that nature. And then as the days progressed, it began more and more. And the thing is that my mother was never trained to be a chef, to cook for everybody. Neither was I. I knew engineering, I knew carpentry. My mother, she raised me. She was a draftsperson. She made drawings. And prior to doing the canteen, she actually did a lot of the book cover design on Swami's books in the book stall there. It's not something that she ever advertised. And Swami was very picky, wanted the colors to be just right. So she would do those drawings and do the illustrations, and they would take it in to show to Swami. And Swami says, no, not this pink. I want this color, not this and not that. And my mother always, never said, a lot of us is, why is my boss changing this? I think it's perfect. No, she's never like that. It's like, Swami knows what's right. So the canteen, started running the canteen. My mother and I did the cooking first. And with Swami's grace, we had people come from all around the world to do service. And this is the first time, this is the lesson that Swami teaches, is that the first thing that he wants us to do to purify our hearts, to get on the path to see him everywhere and everyone, is to serve. That's the very first thing. And it's the very first saying that I saw from Swami, which before I became a devotee, thought is kind of so simple and silly: love all, serve all. What's the big deal about that? But if we really, really dig down to what love all, serve all, Swami doesn't say just love some or just love a few people. Love all, serve all. So we had people from Argentina, we had people from Africa, we had people from Japan, every corner of the world coming to do service, and so lovingly. And it was living in the ashram was almost like all of us were, the sun was Swami, and we were orbiting Swami. And that was the most beautiful thing, is that our minds and our thoughts were all about this. So Swami sends this German young man to come to serve. And did I mention this story yesterday? It's getting sort of unclear because I'm telling so many stories to different people. So Swami sends this young German man, and he comes to work with us. And I've not talked much about my father. And as I mentioned, that my father's path was with Krishnamurti, and his path was far more of the jnani, the intellectual, had a very good heart, but he couldn't see Swami as the Lord. He had many interviews with Swami together with my mother. And I had some heavy karma with my father. And I think we all have karma. The reason why we come into our bodies is because of this. You know, it's not an accident you're born in the family you're born in. Swami knows exactly who to put us together with. And the most beautiful thing is that even though we had this karma, it was my father who actually told me, why don't you go see Swami, stay with him for 6 months? So, you know, we think that, why do I have parents like this? Why did this happen in my life? Why wasn't I loved? Why wasn't I this? Everything is perfectly put together. Even we think it's the toughest things. They're all the instigators, the path that Swami puts together to eventually lead to something we couldn't imagine. And here I am in the ashram, and this young man comes, and he has the same kind of characteristics that rubbed me the wrong way that my father had. And of course, he didn't know that. You know, it's all this stuff we have about other people, about having problems with people. It's all the things that are within us. So one day, I don't mean to be stereotypical or anything, but he was a very precise person. And he always wanted things in a certain way, do things in a certain way. And eventually, for me, it felt so much like you can't run away from the things that you thought. Oh, I thought my father is far away, and now I have freedom. The same things were coming back until one day I blew up at this man. And I felt horrible. It was like, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep? And I'm in the ashram, and I'm like, what did I just do? And I immediately knew I'm in trouble. Because this was a time in those first 6 months where Swami paid a lot of attention to this person. And I, again, telling you, the reason I'm sharing all of this, it is nothing to do with me being anything special or anything like that. This is all his story, and I'm sharing it with you so you can take this journey too, because we are all the same. You can live it through what I'm trying to share. I'm sharing it with love. So we go to darshan and we sit down, and I already know what's going to happen. Swami's going to do something, and so Swami comes at darshan, and as he's coming by, he stops in front of us and he looks at both of us and he says, "You two, you go," which means go for interview. And so I'm getting up and I'm feeling, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. So I go inside and we sit down, and Swami sits us down, and we sit down in front of Swami in the private interview room. And Swami, what Swami would usually do in the interviews is sit me down in front of him always, and he'd just put his feet on my lap. So I couldn't go anywhere. I'm stuck in front of him. I'm his pillow. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Swami. And he looks at me and says, "You got angry with him." And I said, yes, Swami. Why shouldn't you get angry with him? Because I said, I did get angry with him. And I said, Swami, because you're in him. And Swami says, yes, I'm in him. Don't get angry with Swami. And then I asked Swami, why am I getting angry? What is this between the two of us? Because I felt like, this is some karmic thing or something. Something in me. Why does this happen? And you know what Swami says? Swami knows, but he doesn't tell. Swami's the director of this great drama. Swami tells us this life is a game and what we should do is play it. We are the actors on the stage. And if Swami gave us the whole script and we read the end, would we want to participate? It's like someone gives you a neat book and says, this is a really neat book. It's got great story and a fantastic ending. And if that person told you the ending before you read it, would you read the book? No. So Swami, we're to be here in this drama, as I mentioned yesterday, so that this is a drama of love. It's the Lord playing the game, playing this beautiful game with us. So then my mother, what is it? Yeah, I already told that, Siram. Okay. So, as I mentioned, my relationship to Swami at the beginning was I felt like his son. The day after my first interview, I was sitting at Darshan, and as Swami walked by, I heard his voice inside me say, "This is my son, in whom I am well pleased." And it was from the Bible, and it melted my heart. But at the same time, what came in my head is that, is this my ego? Because, I think that I'm special now. And this is the doubting Thomas. And I remember in an interview, we're sitting with my mother, and as Swami's talking to devotees, Swami would look down at me and say, doubting Thomas, doubting Thomas. And then he would talk sweetly to people and talk. And after a few sentences, doubting Thomas, doubting Thomas. That's the mind. So flash forward 2 weeks, Swami said that he called us in for interviews, said that he's going to Whitefield and that we should follow him and set up the kitchen in Whitefield. So we traveled to Whitefield and set up the kitchen and started to cook there. And there wasn't much time between darshan and dinner. So there was no chance for us to go for darshan. So there is a veranda in front of the kitchen that looks out to a tree that was there where Swami would give darshan. And as we were cooking inside, my mother would occasionally, we would open this door. There were like these double doors along the kitchen that you could open and kind of peek out and see what Swami's doing. So Swami's coming for darshan and he's going there, and I'm cooking with this utensils there were the size, it was an oar, literally an oar. And the pots are, huge like this. So I'm there, we're cooking and sweating and, dressed in whites. We cook in whites. And my mother opens the door to peek out, and she suddenly freezes and she says, "Swami's coming." I said, "What?" "Swami's coming. He's leaving the darshan and he's walking." And she opens the door a little bit more, and I can see Swami's coming with a purpose. It's not like he's just kind of going around. And so the first thing I think about is, am I dressed well? Is Swami going to look at me and everything? But here is my mother. To me, my Meera. First thing she thinks about, oh no, is the floor clean enough for Swami's feet? I mean, see the difference? Someone who's truly selfless. So she tries to get a rag to do it, but Swami is coming. So we're like, what do we do? What do we do? So I turn off the gas on the stove, and I walk up to the door to greet Swami, and my mother is also on the other side of the door. And the first thing that Swami does is he walks right by me, walks right up to my mother and looks my mother in the face and says, "Where's my son?" And I go, "Swami, I'm here." And only the Lord can do this. Absolutely didn't hear what I said. So I thought he didn't hear. And Swami again says to my mother, "Where's my son?" And I look at my mother's face while I'm about to say, "Swami, I'm here." And I see a glint. There's something, communication going on between Swami and her. And I didn't realize that Krishna had walked in. Krishna, the mischievous player. And my mother got it. So she said, "I don't know, Swami." She got in the game. And I'm going, "Swami, I'm here." And what starts happening inside of me is you can only experience this. You start feeling this feeling like you've been abandoned. I don't know how to explain it or transfer it to you, but I literally felt like God had turned away. That I'm not as favor, but as if I don't exist. And it is not a feeling that you want to have. So Swami continues to walk into the service where Swami serves the food. Swami, where the devotees serve the food. So it's the service area on the ladies' side. And Swami leans over the service table there and looks out to the empty area and says, "Where's my son?" And I'm behind Swami going, "Swami, I'm here." More desperate. And Swami turns and he walks right towards me, but his eyes are through me. I'm not there. I'm like a ghost, as if I'm the invisible one. Because we put Swami to be invisible, right? A clue as to what's about to happen. And so Swami, I have to get out of the way like this, and Swami walks into the vegetable room. And we can hear Swami by himself inside saying, "Where's my son?" And my mother is trying not to crack up. And so Swami comes back out, and this really cracked up the kids, and I'm sure it will you. Swami opens the refrigerator and says, "Where's my son?" My mother is now, laughing like this, but I am suffering. And I fall at his feet, now absolutely desperate. And I said, "Swami," I'm almost ready to tug on his robe. "I'm here, Swami." And then Swami so sweetly looks down at me and says, "Ah, there you are." Then Swami, so beautiful, he stops and he becomes more serious, and he points to a chair on the ladies' dining area and says, "Who's sitting in that chair?" And I look over there and I can't see anyone. Maybe Swami can see somebody sitting there, but I don't. And as I'm thinking what to answer, he goes and moves his finger and puts that small but powerful finger onto my heart. And he says, "Who's sitting in this chair?" And he says, "Is it Sai Baba? Is it wife? This is not a musical chair." And then Swami, what does this mean? What does all of this mean? Is this just for fun? The beauty of this is, you can surmise, is that what is wife? Well, first of all, Swami has an acronym for this, and there's different acronyms, but in this term, it means worry invited forever. I know the guys are laughing, right? Because wives are worry all the time. But this is not physical. It can mean physical, but in this case, what is worry? Where does it happen? In our heads, in our minds. And when Swami is in our hearts, there is no worry. When He's in our hearts, we are fully focused. But more importantly, when we're in our heads and we're worrying, do we feel the presence of Swami? We don't. So this whole thing about Him ignoring me was actually, as Swami always told me, everything outside of you is a reflection of your inner being. So if I'm worrying and I'm thinking, what's going to happen? Because I was worrying at the time. As I mentioned, I had been married before, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking about what's going to happen after the 6 months that I'm here. And my gosh, I had just had an interview where Swami basically said everything I needed to hear. He even said He would give me liberation. And I'm still, as Swami says, doubting Thomas, doubting Thomas. But our loving Lord is so patient with us to teach us that that's okay. But now comes that teaching that He's in us. And who are we focusing on? But again, I didn't get this, truly get it. I would go to darshan and I would sit there and we're all in bliss. And I knew Swami would walk by, as I mentioned, a lot of attention at that time. And Swami, He's so beautiful, and I don't need to talk to Him. And Swami would look down at me and says, "You're thinking of wife." And then He would walk off. And my head would start spinning. What does He mean? What? He would do this over and over again. And then finally, on one interview we got, Swami called us in. And all of this constant Swami bugging me about this, taking me out of that blissful place that I could be in because I would focus, doing the musical chair. Swami got up, so we were in the interview, and Swami got up, and he was inviting other people into the interview room. And as he's taking them in, he stops, and he turns around, and he looks at me, and he waves his hand like this. And suddenly in the air, this round object appears, a ball. And Swami grabs it. And he holds it like this, and it's a dark, bluish purple ball. What is this? And Swami comes up, and he acts like he's going to give it to me. So I put my hand out like this, and he goes, "No, open my mouth." So I open my mouth, and I have no idea what's about to happen, and he just plops it in my mouth. And he turns around and starts walking away, and I can feel the texture is familiar. And then I said, I knew it's safe to bite down on it, that it's not a rubber ball. So I bite down on it, and it is the most sweetest, most heavenly, unbelievable, tasty plum that I've ever eaten. And as my teeth are coming closer and closer, I'm to this seed in the middle. Swami's still walking, but the moment my teeth touches the seed, Swami turns around and he says, "Hey, don't eat the seed. The seed is wife." And I knew what to do. And this was very similar to like that first interview, when you really come again to that point of surrender, because that's what this was about. You know, this musical chair going on constantly in our mind. What do we do? What do we do? You know, we put all this effort in, and again, Swami teaches this beautiful lesson because, again, my mind had taken a back seat, and I got up, and I walked over to Swami, and you won't believe, I take the seed and I spit it in my hand, and I offer it to Swami. And same reaction in the interview. People are going, "Ah." And Swami opens his hand as if he doesn't know what I'm offering, playing this part. And I drop the seed in his hand. And people are going, "Ah." You know. And what does Swami do? He goes around me, goes around his chair, and there's another door in Brindavan in that interview. And he walks in there, and while he's doing this, I'm walking back to sit down, and I feel this mission accomplished feeling, which is, I gave it to him. I surrendered it to him. Manasa Bhajari Guru Charanam. Surrender the mind at the feet of the Guru. And what does the Guru do? I sit down and I feel this weight and this maze of thoughts just dissipate while he's doing what? I can hear him washing his hands in the washroom. It was a washroom. The water is running. I can hear him turning it off. And I can hear him wiping his hands. And he comes out and he goes, all gone. How beautiful. And Swami goes in for the interview. And after that, Swami never mentioned this again. And the mind, I understood this lesson that this mind, this bundle of thoughts, is nothing, but has to be surrendered at the feet of the Lord. And so then the question comes, with what? How? So Leslie, you get this interview and you get this and you do all this. This is a lesson in surrender again. So I started to ask myself, what is the right path to God for me? Is it through jnana? Is it through inquiry and everything? And I remember in our third interview, Swami turned to my mother and said, too much father in this boy, not enough mother. I very much walked the path thinking that I have to go the path of using my head to figure everything else. And you can't. The mind cannot figure out the Lord. Swami said that you can spend the whole of humanity, could spend eons and billions of years trying to figure out the Lord. And we wouldn't budge, we wouldn't make one single movement. But if you open your heart, in an instant, you'll know. Swami says that if you surrender at the feet of the Lord, the universe will fall at your feet and serve you. It's powerful. Powerful. So I was a Gopika in this beginning times, and my mother was so happy about that. I turned from this doubting, crazy guy to I couldn't keep my eyes off of Swami. This was that time of, oh yes, I was attached to the form. I will give you that. So Swami had gone to Hyderabad and told us to stay back. And for me, it was agony, not seeing him. It was truly like the gopis when Krishna left. All they would do is think of him. And I remember all I would do is think of him. I would do the seva and do the service, and my mind would just be on him. And I make sure that when we're cooking, it's going to be good, flavorful for the devotees. The most beautiful thing was when you serve. It's one thing to cook in the kitchen, and it's a great thing, but to be out there and actually serve the food and see how happy the people are. But something was so missing inside of me, and that was it was very hard to be away from Swami at that time. So I think after about 3 days, Swami came back, and when he comes back, the most beautiful darshan music, my favorite darshan music, starts up. And the moment I heard that music, I felt this incredible love just well up, that devotion well up inside of me. And Swami would he was walking, and as he was getting closer and closer, this feeling of love just got more and more and more. And I was thinking of, can love get more? What is the limits of this? Because it was very close to that feeling I had when I was in the interview room. And as he was getting closer and closer, this feeling got 1,000 times more than that. And I'm like, now I'm getting scared. There's a part of me that's like, what's going to happen? And as he gets closer and closer, it gets so powerful. It's unimaginable. And finally, he's maybe about 5 feet away from me, and he takes a step. And then that step, this just shoots up into infinity. I'm actually out of my body now. And where I'm now is in this, I just feel like I'm in this infinite. And I'm rushing towards this veil that's in front of me. And I know that I'm about to die. Leslie is about to die. And it's not a physical death. I felt like this, who I am, is going to die. And I wasn't afraid. Because what was going on was, it was so full of home. So full of not expectation, but coming back to where I belong. So that fear that this Leslie, this ego, was going to die was just a small little thing. And I was just witnessing this whole thing happening in this sea of infinite love. And finally, I get to the veil in front of me, and I can see the threads of it being pulled out. And I saw that all these threads are the threads of my mind. You know, Swami says that the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. And he literally, actually, later on, when he had a discourse, talked about it, that it's like he pulls his handkerchief up and says, what happens if I keep pulling these threads? Eventually, there's nothing. And this is what was happening in real time in this infinite place that I was in. And finally, the last thread was about to be pulled out. And I knew if that happened, I couldn't come back. I don't know where the other place was or what it was, but it would be over. And guess what happens? So next to me is the German gentleman who I've had issues with a lot, and a bad thought about him comes in my mind. In the midst of this infinite bliss, this ending of ego, this fantastic place, a bad thought comes in my mind. And guess what happens? All the threads, everything comes back in. The cloth is back. It rushes away from me. And eventually I end up back in my body, blissed out. And Swami is now 10 feet down away from me. This whole episode, which felt like an eternity, was maybe 4 or 5 steps of Swami. And a huge revelation came to me. I had asked that question, what is the way to God? Can someone say that word? What is the way to God? What is the answer? What was happening as Swami was getting closer to me and closer? What was increasing in me more and more? Love. The love for the Lord. The love that's to everything, to everyone, because as that was growing, I didn't feel separate from anyone or anything. And what did that love do? It was the one that was destroying the mind. The mind cannot exist in it. And then, what prevented me from reaching that end? It was, Swami told me in my last interview, when he told me to, 5 years later, Swami told me that it's time for you to go. And I half-heartedly said this because it wasn't truly from my inner conscience. I said, Swami, but all I want is liberation. And I can just hear my cringe when I said that, because I knew what I was saying wasn't the right thing at that time. But Swami said, yes, yes, I will give, but how can I give if the water in the pot is dirty? You understand? The water in the pot is us. Our vasanas, that record that I mentioned before, those grooves. And so Swami's come in his infinite love our mother, to come help us to go through the process of polishing that out, getting that out. And so that's what brought the world back. So Swami, and then the biggest one hit me. The biggest one was that none of this experience I had was because of me. It was His grace. That was the key. Nothing can happen without His grace. So this takes me back to something really, really important. And what I'm about to tell you is for you as well. He's not just talking about me or my mother. So when Swami came into the Western Canteen in Whitefield one other time, it was just my mother and myself in there at that time. And I think the third time after that, I think people wanted to stay with us and cook with us because they knew Swami would come into the canteen. So, of course, hey, we'll get darshan. But on this second time when Swami came in, Swami can be, for one moment, he could be the divine, walking in and teaching you the most ultimate teaching, and you could feel that you're in that presence. The next moment, you could feel you're with a businessman who's teaching you how to do business, and you absolutely don't feel like you're with the Lord. So Swami walked in and he started asking. The first thing he did was there was a lady who was preparing sprouts, and she had just washed those sprouts. And those sprouts take a few days to sprout, right? So Swami walks in and he just casually looks there, tomorrow it will be ready. And Swami walks off. And then he started asking us, where are you getting your pots from? He would ask us, how many people are coming to be fed? He would say, make sure that you give the servings, good servings to people. And Swami says, don't charge much money. Don't. They're my devotees. They're my devotees. Feed them. So we always made sure, we had to set the prices of things so that Swami said the way it should work is that what comes in only pays enough for buying the next and the next. This is not a profit business, it's for sure. And then he took us into the vegetable room. And Swami started asking the question of, how much are they charging you for this? And he's pointing to some cabbage. And my mother would say, 6 rupees a kilo. Swami says, it's too much. And then he would go to another one and ask, how much are they charging you for this? And then the thing is that it was primarily myself and maybe one other person, my mother. We were the ones going in on a rickshaw or in a lorry to go pick up the food. There was no other people who would do it. And we didn't want people to, it would be a difficult situation. So as Swami's going around asking the question of how much does this cost, how much does this cost, Swami is standing here, and across from him is another person, is my mother. So Swami is asking, how much is this, how much is this? And my mother's explaining, and then I think it was the bananas or one others. And Swami says, hey, be careful because they'll try to cheat you. So then Swami takes his finger and he puts it on my heart. And the whole room, the vibration in the whole room absolutely changed. It wasn't the Lord who came, it wasn't a businessman who came in, it suddenly changed into the Lord of the universe. And he puts his finger on my heart and he asks my mother so sweetly, how much is this worth? And my mother, tears started to come down her eyes. And she says, it's priceless. And Swami slowly turns to me and he says, it's worth millions and millions and millions. And my knees were about to buckle and my mother's knees were about to buckle. What Swami was saying is that he brought us, these little jivas, into this world, and we've had millions of births. And Swami, along the whole way, has been fashioning this precious jewel over lifetime and lifetime, each one of you. And it's precious beyond belief, each one of you. This is where Swami resides. The Lord of the universe is no farther away than your very breath. He sits in here and has been getting us so lovingly, without even us knowing, and with our arrogance of believing we are the doer. And so my mother and I are ready to collapse. Literally, I feel I'm ready to collapse. And Swami grabs both of us. A 5'4", you think, wouldn't be very strong, but grabs both of us and brings us out of the interview of, I call it the vegetable interview room. And he stands at the door to the kitchen. And I never before this wanted to touch Swami's feet. I said, I'm not going to touch Swami's feet unless I feel it's the right thing. I'm not going to do it just because everybody else does it. But we both fell down at his feet, and we look up at him, and this is the Lord of the universe. He's infinite power, but infinite love and mercy and, what I would say, sweetness at the same time. And he says to us, very lucky day, only mother and son. And we both fall down at his feet, my mother on one foot and I on the other, and Swami's putting his hand on our head. And this is the thing about spirituality. Swami teaches us, drive slowly, start early, drive slowly, reach safely. And over again, people, you probably heard about this, that when people would be at darshan and they'd want to ask something or give a letter, Swami would go, wait. Why is he doing this? Because everything has its time. Swami has a plan, and it is so intricately woven. And not only is your life woven in, but everybody else is all together at the same time. Who can do this? Only the Lord. And for us, that's what it felt like. When I got back up from touching his feet, I felt like this moment had been put together, and it's taken so many births, so many lifetimes, and I don't even understand the significance of it. And the beautiful thing of it is I don't even need to. We don't need to understand. Give up understanding. Reside in that one place where you surrender and he takes over. And he'll make everything so easy. When I was 10 years old, prior to even knowing about Swami had given me this experience. I was a 16-year-old. My parents had said, we will provide everything for you, the house, the food, and those things. But if you want to get something that you desire, you need to work for it. So I went on the summers between years of class, I would start to work for a contractor. And the first thing that the contractor does is he makes you shovel and clean up after all the actual, the carpenters. But I wanted to be a carpenter. And he says, no, first you have to shovel and you have to clean up after them. So I made money doing that, and I got the things that I wanted. And the second year of doing this, he started to teach me how to actually cut the wood and how to read the blueprints. So I would cut this one day he told me after, I think this was like close to the end, he says, I think you're ready to use the blueprints and build the wall. So I went and started to look at the blueprints, and something inside says, you don't need the blueprints. There was this prompting inside, just build it. And that's an absurd thing, right? You need to build something with the blueprints. And so I didn't follow that voice inside. And so I picked up the tape measure. And again, the voice said, you don't need the tape measure. And so I let go. And I started to do what it was saying. I picked up the saw, and literally my mind just started to go away. And what I did is I picked up this skill saw, and literally I felt like there's no place to cut it except there. There's no other place that saw could go, so I cut it right there. Then when I took the wood, there was no decisions to be made because that wood could only go there. This nail could only go there. And it was like I was witnessing everything just happening perfectly. There are no decisions. Everything was flowing. And finally, I didn't even have lunch. And by the end of the afternoon, I come out of this state and I see that the whole wall is complete. And it was perfect. And my boss comes up to me and he says, wow, did you do that by yourself? And I'm saying, I don't know. And then he walks off and he says, it's perfect. And then he walks off and I look, not only is the wall perfect, but I started to look out at the concrete that had cracks and had everything. I saw that was perfect. And I looked out at the field where the flowers were and the hills and the trees and the city. And I saw it all as one thing. And when I came to Swami, I realized now, after I had that experience, I couldn't understand it. When I understood it, that Swami didn't have to think. That thoughts are not necessary. Thoughts are what we live in. We live in a world of thought. And that's why we're lost. That's why we have ups and downs, bumps and jumps, passing clouds. But Swami showed us that you can be. He was the example of living constantly. His body was moving. He was doing the things, and it was pure sankalpa. And Swami is teaching us that that's what we need to align our will with his will, to let go and let him work through us. So, with the time we have, who wants to hear a story where Swami is now really testing me? Yes. I'm going to tell you a story that was truly one of the hardest tests, because when Swami says when you put up a picture on a wall and you have a nail and you have this very valuable picture, you're going to test the nail to make sure that it's going to hold. So as I mentioned to you, my mother, I need to give a backstory to this. We ran the canteen. My mother was the main person there, and she did it with all humility. She made sure that one of the biggest things we had to be careful with is in the ashram, just like we have here, you have the ladies and the men. And Swami had appointed me to become a public relations officer at the time, close to about 96 or before, around that time. And Swami told myself and this one other gentleman that, please talk to the overseas devotees because many of them come one by one, boy, girl, and they leave two by two. Swami says, that's not good. Swami's here to give so much. Don't let them do this. And he mentioned so many things that for us to explain to people and so on. But again, my mother made sure that there was nothing like that going on. And she had a good heart. And she definitely, of course, made sure there was discipline. So after, this was in late 96, Swami sends a message that my mother and I should close the canteen. I had been doing public speaking for maybe 4 months, And that's a long story. I was the last person who would ever get up and speak in front of anyone. I was the shyest person before this, and therefore Swami made me do it. And again, it's like the canteen, it's like we heard that if you love Swami and if you surrender, then he turns around and gives you the ability to do anything. All of us are Hanuman if we really allow ourselves to believe and have faith. So Swami sends a message to close the canteen. He says, all the food, all the perishables, give it to the southern canteen. And then he says, and then wait for my message. So my mother, who's older than me, she had been waking up 4:30 in the morning to go down and receive the milk, to get it boiled, to make the porridge. We basically did this 365 days a year, minus maybe 25, 29 days when we went to Kodaikanal. But it was constant service and very physical work. And my mother was very tired. But as others say, Swami gave her the energy. So when this was over, she actually felt inside, yes, this was done. Whatever purpose this had for her, which was the service, the love, dedication, she did it because Swami said to do it. And now that she said, stop. So what happens with all the people who now don't have a Western canteen to go to? Right? Everyone, we love the Western canteen. Where are we going to eat? So what started happening is people started writing letters to Swami. Please open the canteen. People started coming to us and saying, why don't you open the canteen? And then we would tell them, but Swami told us to close. Yes, he said that, but you can always go back to him and ask for it again. That's not how this works. So, what happens? Swami calls me and this gentleman who worked with me who we did service for, speaking as public relations officer, for an interview. And we go in for this interview and sit down. And Swami turns, and we go in the private interview room, and Swami turns to me and says, you open the Western canteen. And I said, Swami, me? What about my mother? And this is going to surprise you. Swami says, no, not your mother. She did very bad things in the canteen. She allowed all kinds of things, mixing and all this stuff. And Swami just starts saying all these things about my mother. And I feel shocked. And Swami says, and I said, but Swami, that can't be. Yes, I know. So I'm thinking inside of me, either I, for the last 5 years, have been living on another planet, and I am absolutely blind, or Swami must be wrong. But how is that possible? How can the Guru, the Master, Satya Sai, be wrong? So my head is spinning. And then I'm trying to think now of how to get out of this situation. So I said, Swami, when do you want to open the canteen? And he says, tomorrow. And I said to Swami, but I don't have the keys, as if that's going to get me out of it. And he says, no, I'll send the keys to you tomorrow morning. And what's going through my head is, if I do this, if I take the keys, then I am endorsing what Swami says. I'm endorsing the fact that my mother was doing all those bad things. And I was going to protect my mother's virtue. Do you know, to me, my mother was everything. She represented, we're not perfect. I'm not saying my mother was a perfect person, But she surrendered to Swami. She gave everything to Swami, and she did her best for Swami. And everything he was saying just seemed like something so wrong. But here is Swami saying this. And not only that, the man next to me was a witness. It wasn't like we can be in the interview by ourselves and no one would hear about this because this gentleman liked to talk. And we could get outside of this interview and this information could just spread that here is this young man who is not following what Swami's saying. So I am not feeling like I'm having an interview. I am feeling like I've just been going through a punching bag. I'm confused. And so I'm still trying to get out of this, but there is no way. So what happens is the interview's, Swami's acting as the interview's over and he gets up. And the gentleman who is with me asks Swami, Swami Padnamaskar. And Swami's do. And so he goes down. And Swami's chair is here. And I'm over here. And this confusion in my head, this feeling like I can't do what he says, but I have to do. And the question of, I didn't come here for this. And guess what Swami does? He looks over at me and he hugs me. And he looks down and he winks. And as he's hugging me and he winks like this, two things happen. For an instant, because of that wink comes, hey, I'm playing a game. But that fades away. Oh my gosh, I'm Hanuman. Swami's hugging me, and as he hugs me, I realize this is why I came into this world. I came into this world to follow truth. And where does truth emanate from? From here, from my conscience. Because Swami told us in another interview a very powerful statement. He took us for an interview, the gentleman from Holland who loved to read about Yogananda. And in the middle of the interview, suddenly out of, exuberance, he says, Swami, no, not Yogananda, Ramakrishna. Swami, you are Ramakrishna, you are Ramakrishna. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did he just lose it? And I'm like, how is Swami going to respond? Is he going to go, hey, hey, hey? Swami never responds the way we would. Swami turns everything into the most beautiful lesson. And Swami goes, Rama, and as he says this, he starts turning to me, Rama, Krishna, Sai Baba, all are passing clouds. And then he takes his finger and puts it on my heart. He says, the only thing that is permanent is your conscience. Follow it. My gosh. Swami, who talks, talks about how important the avatar is, he says, the most important thing, this avatar, yes, will be here, will be with us, come and go. But when he's not here, what's left and what has always been there is our conscience. And follow it. And as Swami's hugging me and telling me I'm feeling my conscience is saying I have to follow the truth. And so he lets go of me, and what happens? As he lets go, the mind comes back in, and I get up and the whole thing of the mind inside saying, but Swami told you to do this. And then I'd flip back, no, I'm here for truth. Then it's like angel and devil on my shoulders. And so then I walk out of the interview and I don't feel like I had an interview. I felt like I literally was in a boxing match. I mean, what would you do? If people find out that you're not following what Swami said, what will they do to you? What will happen if you don't do what Swami says? So now comes the biggest, hardest part. I have to go back to our flat, and my mother's waiting for me there. And to make it even harder, Swami told me to stop working in the canteen before. And when he asked, no, there was something, sorry, I'm mixing it up. So I'm going back upstairs. What am I going to tell my mother? I'm saying, I can't tell her what happened. It's going to devastate her. So I go back upstairs and my mother asks, what happened? And I said, I was in an interview, and she can't believe it, and I can't either, and I don't even feel it. So the only way I can prove it is Swami gives out vibhuti packets in the interview room. So I said, yeah, I was. See? What happened? What did Swami say? She's so full of joy, and I'm so full of the opposite. And what do? I tell her what happened. And she was devastated. What? I gave everything for Swami. And here's the thing, just like when Swami came in as Krishna into the canteen and wanted to play with me, she wasn't understanding yet that this was something that was meant for me. But I saw in her that shock. But I gave my whole everything to Swami, and every part of me, and he does this? And so she says, no, this is between you and Swami. So she went in the kitchen and closed the door, and I'm left on my own. Because I asked her, what do I do now? And she says, this is between you and Swami. I'm left on my own. And the biggest problem, I can't even go to Swami with this, because he's the one who did this. So I go out for a walk. I absolutely feel I'm on my own. I'm walking around the ashram until it's pitch dark, and the sevadals say, go back upstairs. It's time to go to bed. I try to sleep. I barely sleep, and I wake up in the morning, and I say, what am I going to do? Should I take the keys? Will Swami have the keys there? Maybe not. Should I take them? Should I not? So then I thought, I'll do this. And I started writing down, dear Swami, if you take this letter, that means that I shouldn't take the keys. But then I thought, wait a minute, if I'm doubting already what he told me, then what about this letter? I could doubt that. Once you have one doubt in your mind, it leads all the way down to you. There's nothing you can believe. Stop doubting. So I stopped, and I said, wait a minute, where are you? You are in my heart. What does my heart say? And I stopped for a moment, and I listened, and a warmth came in me and said, I came in this world for truth. Don't take these keys. And so I wrote down this on a piece of paper. Dear Lord, I will not take these keys. Everything you said yesterday was a lie. I said, even if you kick me out of the ashram and you never speak or look at me again, I will not take these keys. And that's what I wrote. Whew. And I felt bliss inside. I felt, as Swami says, self-confidence, self-satisfaction comes self-realization. I didn't have self-realization yet, but I did feel that deep feeling. This is the right thing to do. So I folded it up. I went walking to darshan with confidence. And what happens? The devil pops up on my shoulder and says, what if you're wrong? And I see the sea of people. I know all the people who run the ashram. There's consequences to this. But no, I know it's true. And I took a book with me, and I sat down farthest from first line as I could. So I'm reading the book, and suddenly, I look up, and it's the head sevadal, and he says, sir, come. Sir is waiting for you. And I look up, and it's the head of the ashram with his assistant, and I see a box, and I know what that box is. It's the box of keys. Oh, Swami, you're actually going to do this in public, in front of everybody. So I walk up, and what am I going to do? So I get up there, and this man is smiling, and I know he's a tough guy, because you have to be tough, because people, want to take advantage of things and this and that, but he follows Swami's word. So he goes, Sairam, sir, and he reaches his hand out, grabs my hand. I just came from Swami, and Swami says, you will be running the Western Canteen, and here are the keys. And I said, I won't take them. Huh? Why? Now, I cannot explain this to him. What do I say? I pray to Swami, say something true, but short. And I said, sir, I had an interview with Swami yesterday, and I won't take the keys. Okay, go sit down. So I go and I sit down where I was. And I'm back into my book trying to be invisible. Next thing, I look up, head Sevadol again. He takes me, come sir. And he takes me to the spot which is the best spot in the house. One where Swami will always walk by, and he grabs the man there and tells him to get up, and he sits me down there. There is no way I can get out of this. And so Swami, music starts, darshan music starts, Swami comes out of the Purna Chandra, and from a distance, I can see him looking towards me if I'm sitting there. And Swami would come to the ladies' side, he would stop doing what he's doing and make sure that I'm still sitting there. And I knew he's coming for me. And finally, he's getting closer and closer and constantly making sure I haven't run away. And so maybe he's around, maybe where the flowers are here to the ladies here. And from that distance, he asks, did you get the keys? Everybody can hear it. And I'm getting on my knees and praying, come closer, come closer. And so I wait, and Swami's like, speak. And so finally Swami comes up to me. And I said, they did come. And you didn't take the keys? I said, no, Swami. Why? Why didn't you take the keys? And I close my eyes now. And I'm not speaking to this Maya that's outside of me. Shirdi Baba, a man came once to Shirdi Baba and said, Master, please teach me the truth. And Shirdi said to him, the Master doesn't teach the truth. He teaches Maya. He uses Maya. He teaches with untruth. And that was like, what? How is this? And Shirdi Baba said, when you have a thorn in your hand, how do you remove that thorn? With another thorn. Why? Because truth is already within us. It takes another untruth to remove it. So here I am, Swami, telling Swami I didn't take the keys. He asked why. And I close my eyes and I'm back in the interview room. I'm back where he's hugging me. I'm Hanuman. I follow what the Lord in my heart says. So I said, Swami, I came here to follow the truth, to be the truth. I won't take the keys. And it was absolute surrender again at his feet. And the next thing I feel is this, no longer the hard pat of a seva doll. I feel the soft hand pat of Swami, and this voice, beautiful voice, says, very happy, sit down. And I sit down, and time is lost. The next thing I know, a seva doll is, sir, and I look up, and there's no one around. Darshan had long been over. And I get up, and I go, I'm in bliss. And the thing is that just like Jesus, who followed the command of the Father, what happened to him? Did he live a life of luxury? Did he live a life of of all the worldly things? Where did he end up? He ended up on a cross. He ended up there willingly. And so what happened to me was soon after this, I had to leave the ashram. There were outside physical consequences to this, because the thing is that Swami doesn't go then and tell, hey, everybody, I just did this game with him. So when we follow the truth, and it's a long story, there was other things involved with it. But what everyone on the outside saw, especially the people in the ashram, was that I didn't follow Swami. I didn't follow the Swami, but I did follow Swami. So when we do follow the truth, it may not be easy. People may not understand. But the Lord of the universe does. Do I have 5 more minutes? What I want to say from all of this, I know this sounds like a really difficult thing, and I went back upstairs to see my mother, and I told her what happened, and she just broke down crying. She was so happy that I followed Swami. I did follow Swami. And the thing is that it was because of the love that he ignited in me. He transformed me. He's transforming each one of us. And I have to tell you, this one beautiful dream that Swami gave me when I was in the ashram that will explain all of this, the last 2 days to you, perfectly. And you'll first wonder why? What is this? So the dream starts out, and Swami says all dreams that have Swami in them are by him. He makes those dreams happen. You cannot have a dream because of your will. Just wanted to let you know. So in this dream, I'm back in Ojai in front of a high school that is there. It's nighttime, and all the Swami students are dressed in white, waiting for Swami. And I'm with them, but I'm not a student. So I'm kind of standing away. I'm dressed in white, but I can't really be with them. And Swami shows up, and they all go in the front door and go inside this big auditorium in the high school. And so I'm like, how do I get inside? So I run back into the back, and there's this big guy in the back, like like they have those bouncer or whatever. And there's a door behind him, and he's making sure no one goes in there who doesn't belong. And I come up to him and I said, please let me in. And so he looks around to make sure no one's seeing what he's about to do. And so he opens the door a little bit, and I go inside. And I start walking down, and I start hearing this disco music, of all things. And as I'm going further down the stairs, I can see lights, kind of, pink, purple, red, and everything on the walls. And I end up down in this basement, big room, and the students are there with bowls of laddu and prasad and everything, and they're dancing and everything like this. And I ask for a laddu, and they go, no, it's mine. And this is the thing, is that it's another reflection of all the gifts that Swami gives us. They're not just for us. Share. So then I'm like wondering, there's commotion going on in the middle of this. And as I'm getting closer, I see literally a spinning disco ball. The lights and the reflections. And who's dancing in the middle? On the stage, like John Travolta, literally like John Travolta, is Swami. He's dancing in this yellow robe. And Swami sees me, and he grabs me, and he pulls me to him to dance. And I do not want to dance with him. This is not my Swami. This is not him. And you'll get it. I'll explain. I push him away. And I run out of there, run away from all this commotion, this flagrant stuff going on, and I end up running into this hallway, which turns into this this just a hall that you would have in a restaurant, and there are booths. And at the end of the hall is the real Swami, the one dressed in the burgundy robe. And I walk up over to him, and you cannot stand in front of him. And I fall to my knees because you cannot stand in front of that divinity. And he looks down at me and grabs and holds my hand, and he starts to walk back towards where I came from. And as he's walking, he would peek in and start talking to people in the booths. And we get back to where the disco section is. And now what happens? The students do a double take. They see the dancing Swami, and they see the divine, the power, and of course, they all want to jump on him. What does this all mean? The dancing Swami is the one who told me to take the keys. He's Maya. The Maya is the one that's so shiny, the ladus, all the things that we go after, the things that make us selfish. And Swami wants to dance with us. Yes, it's fun, right? The world is a fun place. That's the cloak of Maya. But the real one is the burgundy robe, the one who's taking you by the hand. And as he's walking through, and the students want to jump on him, I try to protect him and push these students off of him because it looks like she's going to get mobbed. And Swami immediately turns back and says, no. What does that mean? Do not interfere with other people's road to God. We are not proselytizing. We're not here to say this is the right way, that's the right way. Everyone has their own path to God. What we need to share is our love, our faith, but more importantly, our actions. Swami says, make your life like a rose that speaks with the language of fragrance. So, as we walk past this, it's so many people, we're walking on the shoulders of people. And the road is getting narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower until finally there's just a very narrow fence. But anytime my hand starts to slip, Swami immediately turns back and holds on tighter. And finally, we get to this where there's only one narrow road, and I look up. I can't see Swami's form anymore, but his hand is still holding on. His arm stretches off to infinity, and he's pulling me, pulling me, pulling me, until I don't know how much time passes, but we get to the end. And what is the end? Suddenly in front of me is this beautiful meadow. There's a white gate that slowly opens, the trees, the dew, the small cottage. And I look down, there's no body anymore. And I drift behind this cottage, and there sitting, waiting for me, is Swami. But the thing is, I no longer felt it's Swami. It's one. I felt it's me, it's him, it's us, it's I. Duality goes away. Everything just fades into bliss. You know, brothers and sisters, we have the most beautiful, beautiful opportunity in this lifetime, for him to take us by the hand. That's why he's come here. He's taking us by the hand so lovingly. Don't let go. Once the true guru, the true master, as Swami says, there's only one true guru, and that is God. Swami told me that in an interview. All others are fake, he said. The only true guru is God. And we have that God with us, around us. And most importantly, inside of us. And once you find that true guru, Swami says, the only thing you have to do is fight the urge to drift away, to go to something else. You have the ultimate ticket on the train. You've been on this train for so many births. Swami says, when the train stops occasionally, you'll see nice things, those trinkets and stuff. Don't get off. Stay on the train. I know it can feel sometimes we're not getting anywhere. But he loves you, cares for you. Be like him. Love like him. Make your life his message. And with that, I said, Sairam. Jai Sairam.